Howdy, my name is Jackson. I'm a junior zoology major, and I will be defending the Necrophorus americanus, also known as the American burying beetle.
Hello, my name is Nick, and I am a sophomore finance major, and I will be defending the Lycides melissa samuels, also known as the Karner blue butterfly.
So, our debate topic is which would be more devastating to go extinct as a species. So, the American burying beetle is a beetle found across the United States. It's most prominently found in central grasslands and forests. It is part of the order Coleoptera, commonly known as beetles. To further define it, it is part of the family Sylphidae or carrion beetles. These beetles typically range from 1 inch to 1.5 inches. The American burying beetle is a holometabulous insect, meaning that it goes through many life stages, goes from eggs to larvae to pupae, and then finally emerging as adults. The beetles are raised by both their parents, which is rare in insects. These beetles typically live for around 12 months, giving them enough time to go through an entire reproductive cycle before dying. The most notable behavior of the American burying beetle is how it reproduces. After burying itself under snow for the winter, it emerges in the spring ready to reproduce. In order to reproduce, it finds itself searching for both a mate and a small fresh carcass. This carcass can be something such as a bird or a mouse. Once it finds a suitable location, the beetles will mate before burying the carcass and digging nearby tunnels. After a period, the larvae will emerge after using the carcass as a protected place to grow. They will continue to feed on the carcass until they become pupae, at which point they will leave the carcass and find a sheltered place in a nearby tunnel to grow until emerging as beetles themselves. So these bugs have a potentially large impact on human society, especially in the way that carrion, such as roadkill or dead birds, are dealt with. Because these beetles use carrion as hosts for their eggs, they're able to dispose of it, leaving humans with very little mess, if any. If these beetles were to go extinct, we may notice potential changes such as more corpses of animals strewn about. It's not only a comfort issue, but a health issue as well. Corpses can be vectors for disease, as they attract other decomposers that can potentially spread it elsewhere, such as our homes. The unique characteristics of the American burying beetle are its reproductive behavior along with its unique markings. The beetle has characteristic orange on its head, thorax, and abdomen. These contrast with its black carapace and allow it to scare off potential predators with bright colors.
Okay, so the Karner blue butterfly is a small butterfly that lives in the oak savannas and pine barren ecosystems. Karner blue butterflies have a very short adult lifespan, only around 5 days. Some females have been found to live 2 weeks in some cases, but mostly it's not that long. For Karner blue butterflies, there are two broods each year. The first set of eggs hatch in April, then the larvae feed for a few weeks before cocooning. Then the adults will emerge and fly for the first 10 to 15 days in June. Once the butterfly emerges, it expands its wings and dries them for about 40 minutes. Then it gathers nectar from wildflowers. During the time they are alive, they mate and the females lay their eggs on lupine plants. They can fly up to about 1.4 miles across open landscapes. Ants protect the caterpillars from natural enemies, and in return, the ants collect nectar from the caterpillars. According to animaldiversity.com, Karner blue butterflies have no negative impacts on human society. There are some positive impacts, including an increase in ecotourism, research and education, and habitat protection. In 2003, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service prepared the Karner blue butterfly plan. Some unique characteristics of the butterflies are their size, especially their wingspan, which is only 1 inch long, the size of a nickel. Karner blue caterpillars only feed on leaves of lupine plants. Also, the female and male have different topside colors. The male is silvery and and dark blue, while the female is grayish brown with orange crescents. Both of the undersides are gray with orange crescents.
So, when dealing with comparing the American burying beetle and the Karner butterfly, the ecological impacts of the two need to be compared. According to Nick's opening, the Karner blue butterfly has minimal positive or negative impacts on human society. The positive impacts are limited to ecotourism, which have a minimal impact in today's social media. Due to the ability of sharing information across the internet, ecotourism has a minimal impact today. Because of this, the American burying beetle's impact of decomposing carrion and roadkill has a much higher impact on human society. This would lead to the loss of the American burying beetle would be much more devastating for humans. A final point to be made against the Karner butterfly is that research value they provide is minimal compared to other insects. While the butterfly can be beneficial, its research value only contributes to the research of insects, while other insects provide a wider range of values such as fruit fly research.
Well, I have numerous reasons why the beetle would be more devastating or less devastating of an extinction than the extinction of Karner butterfly. To address the statement just made by Jackson about the impacts that the Karner blue butterflies have, the impacts that they have are positive. That are positive towards human society, and there's no negative impacts at all. As I said in the opening statements, the positive impacts include ecotourism, education, and habitat protection. In Jackson's opening statement, he talks about how the beetles can get rid of roadkill and leave humans with a little mess. I think this is often overstated because there are lots of different natural processes that can break down these carcasses. The process includes fungi and bacteria that can help decompose without the help of the beetles.
What Nick says is true that the roadkill and carrion can be decomposed of without the help of the beetles through fungi and bacteria. These processes can take much longer than the beetles. These beetles will also move the carrion to secluded spots and bury them, as well as decomposing them. According to a study done by the Cornell Waste Management Institute, the decomposition of roadkill can take 4 to 6 months in order to decompose fully. These months are an additional 2 to 4 months compared to the 1 to 2 months it takes for the American burying beetle to gestate fully from being laid in the carcass to developing into full beetles. These 2 to 4 months can be an unsightly burden on roadsides, creating unwelcoming environments for those traveling in areas where roadkill is common. If the American burying beetle were to go extinct, this would be a common issue in their areas as well. I believe that the education opportunities provided by the Karner blue butterfly are minimal compared to the other education available for the butterfly's habitats. Oak trees are such a common tree that they provide habitats for a number of insects and other species.
I would also like to add that Jackson is correct about the addition of several months being added to the roadkill when the beetles are not present. But I would like to add a counter argument to that statement. There are other competitors for the carrion like crows, raccoons, and coyotes. I think that they could pick up the work that the beetles do. On the other hand, the educational opportunities provided by the Karner blue butterfly might be smaller compared to others, but there are still tons of opportunities, not just in entomology, but also all environmental sciences, ecology, and conservation biology. Using how these butterflies interact with things and their life cycle, you can learn a lot about other ecosystems and species.
In research, the American burying beetle is used as a subject to show reliance on humans. This insect, being a model, provides a distinct importance among other insects. Without them, we may lose a key way to view the health of an ecosystem. This loss can be devastating, especially in areas that have very little biodiversity in the first place. These insects become important to study as time goes on and biodiversity shrinks further. As with any insect, finding ways to help them reproduce and introduce into areas is an important goal. By finding out how to do this with the American burying beetle, it can teach us how to do it with other species as well. If we lose these beetles, we could end up losing the opportunity to save other species.
When Karner blue butterflies are used in research, it is primarily an indicator to the habitat it lives in. As I've said before, they live in oak barrens and their survival is dependent on the presence of wild lupine because this is the only plant that the caterpillars feed on. This makes them a valuable resource for research because they can monitor environmental changes and the effectiveness of some conservation efforts that are aimed at their ecosystem. This butterfly is listed as endangered in many states, and this makes it very important to study because it can lead to the development of conservation strategies for the species but also the habitat. Another plus to studying these butterflies is learning more about genetic diversity in the populations. The last important reason to study the butterflies is the relationship between the species and the wild lupine plant, which is extremely crucial to the larvae and the life cycle of Karner blue butterflies.